Today, we're diving into something huge, a massive global shift that's happening kind of quietly, right under our noses. Some are calling it the Great Digital Lockdown, and it's really changing the internet as we know it.
So let me ask you this. Have you been asked to prove your age or show some ID online lately? Maybe when you were trying to buy a game or just browsing a news site. Heck, maybe even just trying to tweak the settings on your own computer. If that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone.
And here's the thing. What feels like just another random, annoying pop-up is actually part of a much bigger, deliberate, and interconnected campaign that's happening globally. It's one that's fundamentally rewriting the rules of the internet. So where did this all kick off?
Well, for this explainer, our story starts in the United Kingdom. There's this piece of legislation called the Online Safety Act, and it's basically the perfect case study for how this whole ball gets rolling.
The public reaction to this law, it was immediate and it was huge. On the very day the age verification rules kicked in, signups for VPNs, virtual private networks, shot up by an absolutely staggering 1,400%. This wasn't just a small trend, it was a massive overnight scramble for digital privacy. And the real-world fallout from this? It started to get, pretty absurd, pretty fast. The law's reach became so broad that it started preventing young adults from doing basic things on their own computers. So if it's not just governments, who's really driving this thing?
Okay, so while governments are the ones writing the laws, the sources we're looking at point to a whole other group of players who are operating behind the scenes. These hidden architects aren't politicians. They're activist groups and, believe it or not, financial companies. And they have this playbook that's, it's brutally simple and incredibly effective. So it starts with an activist group targeting some online content they don't like. But instead of going to the platform itself, they go straight for the jugular, the financial giants like Visa and MasterCard. Those companies then threaten to cut off the platform's ability to process payments, which is basically a death sentence for any online business. So what happens? The platform is forced to censor the content, not just in one country, but for everyone, everywhere.
The game creator Yoko Taro really hit the nail on the head here. The implication is just staggering. You've suddenly got a tool where financial companies in one country can effectively control and censor free speech in a completely different one.
So this is way bigger than just one law in the UK or one clever playbook. When you zoom out, the sources make it clear that these aren't just isolated incidents. They appear to be part of a much larger, synchronized campaign that's rolling out all across the globe.
I mean, the pattern is just undeniable when you look at it like this. You've got Australia pushing for mandatory digital ID for all social media. Then in the EU, there's a proposal called Chat Control to scan all private encrypted messages. In Ireland, a bill aims to monitor everything from your texts to your PlayStation chat. Italy has a new system that can literally wipe a website off the map in 30 minutes. And then there's Brazil fining its own citizens almost $9,000 a day just for using a VPN. Individually, they're big deals. But together, they paint a very, very clear picture.
So how in the world does this all fit together? How is this global system being built? Well, the sources suggest that this whole new architecture of digital control rests on 4 key pillars. The first pillar is the foundation for everything else: universal digital ID. We're talking about systems that link everything you do online, every single click, every comment, every purchase, directly to your government-verified real-world identity. And just like that, online anonymity, which has been a core principle of the internet forever, is just gone.
Pillar number 2 adds the money layer, Central Bank Digital Currencies, or CBDCs. Now, this isn't just like the digital cash we use today. This is programmable money. It means every transaction you make could leave a permanent digital trail, giving the issuer the power to not just watch how you spend, but to actively control it, to restrict or even freeze your funds.
The third pillar is all about controlling what you can say and see. These new censorship laws. And the key here, the real trick, is that they're written to be incredibly vague. They use subjective terms like harmful content. So if you're a platform and you're facing massive fines, what do? You have no choice but to over-censor everything. just to be safe. And that brings us to the final pillar, the one that really locks the whole system into place. It's a direct, all-out assault on the very tools people use to protect their own privacy. This means things like breaking encryption, which is what the EU's chat control proposal is all about, and then punishing anyone who even tries to use tools like a VPN. So let's zoom in on that fourth pillar for a second. What does this war on anonymity actually look like in practice? Well, the attacks on these privacy tools are pretty creative. You have to give them that. Some countries, like Brazil, go right after the users with those insane fines. Others, like Russia, target anyone who even advertises a VPN. And then you've got the more subtle approach, like in the UK, where they pressure the core infrastructure of the internet to just block the content. The takeaway is pretty clear. They're attacking from every single angle they can think of. So why does anonymity matter so much anyway? Why is this such a big deal? Well, the absolutely terrifying rise of doxing, where someone maliciously posts your private info online, makes it painfully clear. This isn't some theoretical problem. In the US alone, 11 million people have already been victims. A quarter of us know someone it's happened to. The consequences are dangerous, and it's forcing almost everyone to try and hide their digital lives. So when you put all of these pieces on the table, the digital IDs, the financial surveillance, the vague censorship, this war on privacy tools, a pretty stark picture starts to emerge. The conclusion from the sources is, well, it's completely unambiguous. This isn't some slippery slope we're on, some problem for the future. The interconnected system for mass monitoring and control isn't just being planned, it's being built and turned on right now. And that really leaves all of us with a fundamental question. The internet as we know it was built on this ideal of decentralized freedom, of anonymity. But its next chapter, well, it's being written in the language of surveillance and control. The entire architecture for our digital future is being decided as we speak, and the choice we make now is going to define it for generations to come. Thanks for tuning in.